We're back with another edition of Where Religion and Politics, the two forbidden subjects, meet at the crossroads. This time, we're going to delve into COVID, Congress's response to it, our response to it. Is the problem really COVID, or is the problem being exacerbated by our response? I'm Mel McGinnis, and with me is Kurt Olson. Kurt, I found this quote as I was looking at my phone. It says this: if one death in 10,000 cases is enough to shut down the country, then shouldn't one fraudulent vote in 10,000 shut down the election?
Oh, wow. Wow.
Interesting. Well, that's the subject we're going to talk about, COVID and our response to it.
Wow.
And here we just came off hearing the news of a huge bill being passed in Congress.
Yeah. 5,593 pages.
Yeah.
With a minimum of $900 billion in spending. And it involves multiple federal agencies. It involves spending in multiple foreign countries. It involves $600 to Americans for their latest batch of "we want to help you" when we didn't do it back in the summer. When Nancy Pelosi, it's interesting to watch people on Twitter blame this on Mitch McConnell. Nancy Pelosi had members of her own caucus pleading with her in the summer, "Our people need help now." She refused to do it, and she has said since the election, because she was afraid it would benefit Donald Trump at the polls. And this thing, whatever we want to call it, that they did last night on Monday evening, early Tuesday. This is what they came up with, and it's helped to a variety of people, more businesses, Americans, and just, again,
right, and
massive spending.
I heard, and I might have this wrong, but Trump, as he was negotiating, promised $1.8 trillion, but Nancy didn't want it. Now it's down to $900 billion, which I'm grateful for. I mean, at least it's cut in half of what it was, but you can see how this was so politicized.
Well, what's going to be more interesting, I think, is when Biden takes office, if indeed that happens. It's going to be, especially with the Congress so close, he's going to have Democratic governors like our own Andrew Cuomo begging and pleading with him to do something one more time. Now, the story is Goldman Sachs is basically telling people that if the Georgia Senate goes in the direction of the GOP, absolutely, positively, no more COVID spending. But Biden is going to have Cuomo, Wolf, Murphy, Whitmer, Newsom, and a handful of others begging him. We have state, counties, cities, towns, school districts that are needing money.
Yeah.
And they have been hurt by COVID-19. And they need a piece of the pie too. And our own governor is leading the group of governors that are attempting to make that case because, of course, he's got New York City here. He's got $60 billion or whatever it is that is the flow of red ink going out of Albany now, and they're already proposing just bare bones government, massive cuts across the board. If it doesn't happen, so we're going to have the lives of teachers, kids back in school. I can just see how this is going to play out. When Biden, if indeed he's inaugurated, and it's going to be something to watch.
Yeah, I can't help but to think of our own congressman, Tom Reed, who's part of the Problem Solvers Conference, who, if I understand correctly, was very involved in getting this thing passed.
Yeah.
I feel like Congressman Reed has created more problems.
And supposedly Tom Reed is one of the guys that's going to be a candidate to oppose Cuomo the next time around.
Now, I'd prefer Reed over Cuomo, of course, but I'm afraid our, quote, conservative congressman isn't conservatively fiscal.
Exactly.
He's not a fiscal conservative.
No, he's not. No.
He's basically a tax and spend progressive. I'm sorry. That's just what I see.
He's been that very consistently.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I have the substantiation when you go to Conservative Review and see the records of their votes.
Yeah.
You'll see Congressman Reed below 50%.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's sad.
He's in terms of representing the southern tier, okay, yeah, he's our guy.
Yeah.
Is he better than Tracy Mitrano?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I mean, is he
Thomas Massey?
No. Absolutely not. Is he Justin Amash? No.
No.
Absolutely not.
And by the way, when we say Thomas Massey, Justin Amash, no, I don't think Amash is in Congress anymore.
He'll be out come January.
Yeah,
yes.
right.
Yes.
But those guys, they're fiscal conservatives.
Exactly. Yeah. In fact, there were 82 members of Congress that voted no on this monstrosity, and there is some Democrats in the bunch. I guess Tulsi Gabbard was one of them, but most of them are Republicans who just have a hard time swallowing what they were shoveling, especially when there's a standing rule in Congress. You have 3 days to read a bill.
Mm-hmm.
You have 72 hours to read a bill. They gave them 6 hours, not days, 6 hours to read 5,593 pages. Well played.
Right.
Well played.
And
Nancy
I thought this was
Pelosi.
about COVID.
Yeah.
When it's about internationalism by funding all these other countries.
Exactly.
With what? I'm not sure. But that's the way we look at it politically. When we think of COVID medically, or how we're conducting ourselves as a public health policy. For me personally, and I'm not a doctor and I don't play one on television, but I just don't see the value of masks. I don't.
And the numbers. Now, there will be people who say, well, when you say there's 80-90% mask compliance, that's not true because people wear it below their nose. I mean, there's all kinds of these arguments that happen. But there are people that will argue that there is massive mask compliance in this state, New York, California, and if you look at numbers that have happened in the last 4, 6, 8 weeks, climbing numbers. Because if you listen to some of the arguments that are now being made, well, you're going to have to wear a mask long term, even if you get the vaccine. This is not this wonderful little cure-all drug that, and masks are our future. And if they want to make the argument, wear a mask because you don't know who you're coming across in public, someone with diabetes or COPD, I can somehow accept that. However, when you start arguing that masks are our solution, and the numbers tell me otherwise, it tells me the politicians don't care at all about the data that actually exists, and they aren't willing to change their opinions when it's obvious that they're wrong.
Yeah, when I listened to Rand Paul, he said 80% of the people who wear masks, 80% of those who contract COVID wear masks.
What gives with that? I thought it was supposed to protect us.
See, that's what I'm saying too.
And there's been a bunch of studies that have come out. Not a bunch. There's been a few. The big one in the last probably 4 to 8 weeks was one out of Denmark, and it kind of focused on the person wearing the mask, not the person on the other end. And basically it said doesn't achieve what people say it is. And there was the people that came up with that study had difficulty getting it published because the results were not what people wanted to see and hear. And it's one thing to say, okay, this is a differing opinion on masks, but when scientific journals or medical journals or other entities just say, well, we don't want that opinion out there, so we're going to quash it. Seriously? We're dealing with a public health crisis, folks. You know, the politicizing of science has been very, very bad for it.
Yeah, I feel like the politicizing of this public health issue has so discolored what's going on that people are under illusions.
Yep.
And again, this is just one man's opinion.
Yeah.
For me, I feel like go by way of natural medicine. Make sure you have zinc. Make sure you have vitamin D3. To be honest with you, I feel more secure taking those kinds of vitamin supplements than I do wearing a mask.
Exactly. In fact, there are people who have varying levels of diagnosis of COVID, and one of the things they tell them right now is add D3 to your diet. And it's like, okay, where was this back in March and April? You know, if this was that simple, you know, what's the theater with masks and social distancing, especially when you have hypocrisy going on all over the place?
Right. Hypocrisy amongst the politicians. Having their parties, going here, going there. Wasn't it Dr. Birx?
Dr. Birx, she warns people about Thanksgiving, and then she saunters off to Delaware with 3 generations of her family. Like, seriously. Not only do you violate travel rules, you know, you got your kids and grandkids in the same locale as you are.
Yeah.
I'm guaranteeing Grandma got close to her grandkids.
Yeah. And is it rules for thee and not for me?
Exactly.
Or are these officials saying, we really don't believe what we're saying?
It's either one of those, or it is this idea that we really don't believe what we are saying, and we're kind of hoping you get the idea that you can just kind of start living your life your own. But in the meantime, please, wear the mask when you're out in public. You can't travel anywhere. And if you do, expect to get coronavirus when you cross the state line.
Yes, right.
This is how insane this kind of stuff is.
Or after 10 o'clock at night.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know, apparently coronavirus has there's kind of a button someone pushes and says, oh, it's 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Whatever you're doing, stop.
Yeah. Or wear the mask when you're walking through the restaurant, but when you sit down, that's when the virus will attack.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm getting into issues that do deal with civil disobedience. In other words, I'm sorry, I went into Wegmans today without a mask. I did that purposely.
Did you get a Karen to stop you?
I got to the cash register, and then a Wegmans employee said, "Would you like a mask?" And that's when I took it. I did. I took one then. I did. I should have said no. But
you may have gone viral on Twitter had you just said otherwise.
But I went through another store, Aldi's, without a mask all the way through.
There you go.
Now, when I'm in church, okay, I have people who are very sensitive about it, and I'll wear one. I'll wear it out of concern for my own people. But I just feel like we've got to start doing some responsible civil disobedience.
And I think we're at the point in this, especially with chatter now in Great Britain, that there's this mutant strain of coronavirus, and, you know, we're going to get COVID-19 2.0 coming our way. You know, when does it end?
Right, when does it end?
And there is no politician anywhere who has actually communicated when it ends.
Yeah, right. The goalposts keep being moved.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the situation where we want to keep you in fear, panic, and I know anecdotal evidence of all kinds of people, just even here in Chautauqua County, that are basically living in fear. A doctor has told them they can't go out, or they are absorbed with whatever the news is saying, politicians are saying, and they're just struck with fear to go outside and live a normal life.
And the mortality rate in Chautauqua County is 0.02%.
Yeah.
Use the stats, folks. Well,
some data-driven science would
Yes.
actually be a nice change.
yes, it would be. Oh, well, we've come to the end of our time here, but thank you for joining us once again on this edition of the Sophie Scholl Roundtable.